Well, we have some news here, as Mike Garafolo has just broken. So the Rams traded up to take Braden Fiske, and now the Eagles have moved up. They are on the clock at 40. Can you stay with us, Fran, to find out who this is going to be for?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see who this is. I'm excited.
Right, so they're on the clock at 40. Now, there has been this huge run of defensive tackles. If they are trying to get involved in the defensive tackle run, Mike Hall and Chris Jenkins, both still on the board. If it's a wide receiver, Troy Franklin and A.D. Mitchell are available. Roman Wilson as well. If it's the running back, Jonathan Brooks, basically pick your running back. They could do what they did at corner. They can do the same thing at linebacker, and I think that would be really interesting if they're moving up here for Junior Colson or Edgerrin Cooper or somebody else. If it's an edge, we talked about it already. Jonah Ellis is a possibility. Marshawn Nealand, all of the offensive linemen are still available, and Zach talked about it. It could be for Cooper DeJean. You think they could play together? Fran, would there be a spot for Cooper DeJean on this team?
Well, and that's the thing with Cooper DeJean is that sometimes he has been viewed differently by some people. Some viewed him as a slot corner or as a safety moving forward in the NFL. And so depending on how you view him, you might be able to say, those guys can play together at the same time. And so he's a player, Zach, kind of what we were referencing earlier. It just comes down to what you need for your particular roster and for your scheme that you're deploying.
It's going to be DeJean. I'm not reporting that's out there from Jordan Schultz, from Jonathan Jones. That the Eagles are going to go with Cooper DeJean. So we'll see what the pick is in.
Wow.
Here we go.
It is Cooper DeJean. Zach, nice job. I know you didn't break this one, but you called it at the start of the round. You said if they're going to move up, it's going to be for Cooper DeJean. To me, that requires Zach.
Stop. Please stop.
This is maybe even more impressive. The night of Zach, the weekend of Zach continues. Wow, this is the echo.
The Eagles are taking Cooper DeJean.
The echo of Lito Shepherd, Sheldon Brown, Michael Lewis. They're going Cooper DeJean. What do you make of it, Fran?
Yeah, I mean, Cooper DeJean was one of my favorite players to watch on film, guys. He was right there, with Quinyon Mitchell for me. And what I love about Cooper DeJean is that there are a lot of ways that he can find NFL success. And I do think that he can play corner in the NFL, but I also think he can be a really successful inside player as well. And so I'm interested to hear from Howie Roseman and from the coaching staff and see how they're viewed. But I think when you look at Cooper DeJean, one of the best run defenders, certainly in terms of his ability to come downhill and play, extremely competitive, really instinctive, really outstanding ball skills. And again, that's kind of a lot of the things we talked about with Quinyon. I think you mentioned here with DeJean, his ability to make plays on the football, playing in man, playing in zone. They are obviously a heavy zone defense, but the other big thing with him is that he's a big play to happen whenever the ball is in his hands. So a lot to be excited about, certainly with Cooper DeJean.
This is very, very interesting. What do you think, Zach?
So I, for full disclosure, I sent a text earlier today to Bo and Les, and I say I'd be aggressive trying to get DeJean and have a second building block in the secondary. My view on this is a few things here. And I said this at the top of the show. Focus on the value, not on the position. If Cooper DeJean, if part of the appeal to him is the versatility, the fact that he can play corner, slot, and safety, the fact that he can help you in the return game, then he should have value for you right away. But also, the Eagles have a long-term need at cornerback. I mentioned this organization takes great pride in the 2002 draft when they took Lito Shepherd, Sheldon Brown, and Michael Lewis, when Lito Shepherd and Sheldon Brown did not have starting spots. And then a few years later, they're in the Super Bowl, and who's starting for them? Lito Shepherd and Sheldon Brown, okay? Because you go with value, you look ahead. If Cooper DeJean is the player that I think he is, that many people evaluating the draft think he is, then to get him at the number 40 overall pick makes a lot of sense to me. It doesn't matter that you took a corner yesterday because he's a versatile player who's going to help you. And if you have good football players, that's how you win. What you're trying to find is a pathway to blue chip players. And if Cooper DeJean can be a blue chip player, then that makes all the sense to me.
And just to clean this up, the trade up is 50 and 53 plus one of their 3 fifth-round picks in exchange for 40, where they took DeJean, and a mid-third-round pick, number 78. So what they have done is they have taken their 2 seconds, jumped up about 10, 11 spots and then free falled back from 53 to 78 and given up one of 3 fifth-round picks. And the fifth-round pick, there's a good chance they're going to be recouping that value at some point over the course of draft weekend. So it's an interesting gambit. I would imagine that this means that, DeJean was someone who had a borderline first-round grade on their board, and it sort of stood out for them.
Yeah, typically you would hear that when any general manager is going to make a trade like that at the top of the second round, it's typically because, hey, this guy held a high grade for us. And so that would be my expectation as well.
I guess the only other thing to talk about is the concern that we had over the course of the last month or so. I mean, there has not been a team in the NFL that made the Super Bowl with 2 white players in their starting secondary. So does this mean the end of the line for Reed Blankenship?
That is ridiculous. Come on, stop.
That sounds like a conversation for another day for you.
Fran, thank you so much. You've got work to do. I feel like this is a happy time for you. 2 of your favorite guys in the class.
Yeah, so it's 2 guys that I thought were top 20 players in the class. So very, very exciting, certainly. And look, this is a defense that is getting younger. It's going to be fun to see how it all shakes out.
Follow Fran on Twitter at EaglesXOs and check out all he's got coming on PhiladelphiaEagles.com. Thank you, Fran.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
Looking sharp.
Thank you, Fran.
Zach, nice call.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to be in the tank for the organization here. Look at Brandon Graham, by the way. Brandon Graham announcing this in his hometown. But this is the move that I said I would make if I were
Wait
Howie
a second.
Roseman.
So does that mean that Brandon Graham is missing football tonight too?
Yes.
Wow.
That is true.
Do we have
Brandon
an update on your game?
We do. I got a text from my fellow coach here.
Yeah?
We lost, but we had 2 real good completions and 2 touchdowns, so a respectable end to the season.
That was the last game? Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem. So Cooper DeJean, 6 feet, 202 pounds, 21 years old. I think he got dinged a bit in the pre-draft process because he was battling an injury. You did not have the standardized testing for him. I said in our Combine podcast that if he was participating that week, then I think his stock would have shot up. He was on Bruce Feldman's freak list. He has great ball skills. He can play around the formation. The more I watched him during this, the more I liked him. I think that he could be your day one starter in the slot. I think he can help you at safety. The reason I said the Eagles should be aggressive doing this is because I thought this was a first-round caliber player that you can get in the second round. To get that at 40, it strikes me as tremendous value. I acknowledge you should not overrate your evaluation, right? The league spoke here. 39 picks went off the board. Cooper DeJean was not one of them. But sometimes when a player's dealing with an injury in the pre-draft process, and you saw this with Landon Dickerson, it was a little different. But when the team when teams don't have the full body of information, they can ding a player there. And look here, the comparison being Malcolm Jenkins. Malcolm Jenkins, an outside corner at Ohio State who moved to safety and was one of the best players in Eagles history. So I really like this pick. I really like the player. It would be hypocritical of me to rip on it, given that this is exactly what I said I would do if I were Howie Roseman.
Very interesting. What do you make of the double dip in the secondary? And sort of tell us about the idea that the Eagles are very proud of that Lito Sheldon draft.
Yeah, because, well, first off, one thing the Eagles like is to laugh last. Okay? I can tell you that. I mean, and they love to point out that how critical how much that draft was criticized at the time. You have Bobby Taylor, you have Troy Vincent. Why are you taking 2 corners here? Well, both of those guys were older players, and the Eagles looked ahead, and they liked the value there. And those guys played a little bit early on, but they eventually took over, and they were the best cornerback duo that the Eagles had probably in the past 25 years. So that's why they're proud of it, because they stuck us to an organizational thought. They were not operating. I say this, don't operate with the next 5 months in mind. Operate with the next 5 years in mind. And that's what this does. We could be doing this show week 1 of the 2025 season, and Cooper DeJean on one side and Quinyon Mitchell on the other. We could be doing a show at some point too where Cooper DeJean is your starting safety, where he's interchangeable in the slot. There's so many different combinations here. And by the way, I've quoted Joe Douglas a number of times, and this goes back to the Lito Sheldon question too, where what's a luxury pick today is a necessity tomorrow. Ozzie Newsome told him that. And I bring that up because Darius Slay could be out for 6 weeks at some point, right? Who's stepping in? Is it Keely Ringo? Is it Eli Ricks? I'm not sure James Bradbury's on the team this year. It could very well be
he's
Cooper.
Probably not at this point.
Yeah, it could very well be Cooper DeJean. So I like the pick.
We all silly like the mayor.